Hey, everyone, it's Betsy here. And today we are going to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. The best hint, the best piece of advice I can give to you is to learn the quadratic formula. Whenever you're solving quadratic equations, it will work no matter what the equation is. You can always use the quadratic formula. And if you memorize it, it's a lot easier to use. Let's take a look at number one. So before we start to use a quadratic formula, remember our equation has to be in quadratic form, which means it needs to equal 0. When I look up here, it doesn't equal 0, it equals a positive 6x. So we're going to take that positive 6x and move it to the other side of the equal sign. Since it's positive, all you got to do is make it negative. So here we go, and then it's gone. 2x squared, and I'm going to put it right here, minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So 6x take away 6x is gone. It's going to be 0. Now, we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve this. So the first thing we have to do is determine what a, b, and c are. All right. So a is the number in front of your x squared. It's the coefficient for the x squared term. So it's -2. B is the number in front of the x. Well, what's in front of the x? A -6. And c is a constant. It's a number without a variable. It's 8. So now we got our a, b, and c. Now we can go over here and use our formula. So our formula says minus b. So minus, and then let's look at what b is. B is also negative. Don't forget that. Then we have plus or minus b squared. Well, what's -6 times -6? Right? We're going to take that and we're going to square it. And then we got -4 times a times c. 4 times a times c. And then we take the whole thing and we put it over 2 times a. Whew. It's not as bad as it seems if you memorize the formula. So let's go on. A double negative here makes a positive. So I got 6 plus or minus. Again, -6 times -6 is positive 36. Count your negative signs. I got 1, 2. If it's 2, if it's even, it's going to be a positive. And then multiply your numbers. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And that's all over 2 times -2, which is -4. All right. So now I got 6 plus 36 and 64 is 100. All over -4. And what's the square root of 100? What times itself is 100? Not 50. Okay, a lot of people will say 50. No, it's 10. So we got 6 plus or minus 10 over -4. And that plus or minus tells you to take 6 plus 10 over -4 and 6 minus 10 over -4. So we got to do the plus 10 and the minus 10. And make sure you simplify the top before you worry about the -4 on the bottom. So on top here, I got 16 divided by -4 is -4. And then over here, I got 6 minus 10, that's -4. Divided by -4 is 1. And there's my two answers, 1 and -4. What do you think? It's a lot, isn't it? Well, we're going to practice some problems, and then I'm going to practice some more problems. So if you need more practice after that, it will be available. Whew. Just take a second to take a look at this. We have to add what's inside of here. 36 and 64 is 100. And the square root of 100 is 10. And then we got to look at that plus and minus. We got to take 6 plus 10 and 6 minus 10. And make sure you do the top first. 6 plus 10 is 16. Then we divide by -4, and we get -4. 6 minus 10 is -4. And then we got to divide by -4. That gives us a +1. How are we doing? All right, I'm going to erase some of this, and then we'll take a look at the next problem. So let's get rid of some of this. Get some of this out of our way. We don't want it to look messy. When I look at that top problem, I already see that we have an issue with the equation. Who knows what the issue is? What do we need to do first? Anybody? What do we need to do first? I'm listening. Even though you don't think I can listen, I can still listen through the computer. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So number one, the first thing we need to do is have it equal 0, right? It's got to equal 0. So I need to take that -2. It's a -2. So to put it on the other side, just make it positive. So I got 13x squared minus 15x plus 2 equals 0. Now it equals 0. So now we can go on and find our A, B, and C. Now, do we remember how to do that? Remember, whatever's in front of the x squared is your A. So whatever in front of my x squared is my A. So A is 13. Whatever's in front of the x is my B. Well, it's a -15. So B is -15. And then the number by itself without a variable, without a letter, is C, which is 2. Okay? So we've got A, B, and C. It's time to go to work with our equation. So when I look up here at the equation, the first thing we have to do is -b. It's negative, and then what's B? B is -15. Don't forget that, -2 for this. Plus or minus B squared, so -15 squared, minus, this is 4 times A times C. So 4 times A, which is 13, times C, which is 2. All right? How are we doing? All right, let's move on. This double negative for here, that makes a positive, so we get 15 plus or minus. -15 times -15 is 225. Now let's count our negative signs, our minus signs. I only see 1. If it's an odd number, then it's going to be negative. So that's going to be a negative there. Now, 4 times 2 times 13. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. 13 times 8, what is that? 24, 104. Okay. Now, remember, underneath that, we have to do our 2a. So 2 times a. All right. I could have done it in this step up here. If you prefer to put it all together, that's fine too. Now, let's go on. So we got to simplify what's underneath the radical sign. So I got 15 plus or minus 225 minus 104 is 121. And 2 times 13 is 26. Now, we know that the square root of 121 is 11, because 11 times 11 is 121. Now, we got a positive underneath the square root, which means that we're going to have 2 answers. And you can see that we're going to have 2 answers. We're going to change the color again. Let's go back to yellow. I like yellow. So we can do 15 plus 11 over 26. And we can do 15 minus 11 over 26. We have to do the plus and minus. So I did plus, and then I did the minus. If you take 15 plus 20, put 15 plus 11, that's 26. And 26 divided by 26 is 1. If you take 15 minus 11, that's 4 over 26. And I'll just reduce that by 2 to 2 over 13. And that's our other answer. So it's going to cross the x-axis at 1 and add our decimal, whatever 2 divided by 13 is, to be small, really close to 0. All right. I hope that helps. We're going to do a couple more of these. So if you want to stay tuned for the next video, that might be a little helpful to you. Have an awesome day.